We like to do textured glass. Some clients like a little more of a timeless look with just clear glass. I usually ask my clients to peruse the internet, look on Google. We have a huge gallery on our website, that 3D piece of glass that kind of throws rainbows. It psyched me out. I'm Shannon. I am the stained glass designer here at Scottish Stained Glass. Our craftsmanship is one thing. That's what you're paying for when you do a project with us. And we like to address kind of what the needs are of each client. With most entryways, it's usually working with a sidelight, which is like that long, skinny piece of glass that's to the right or left of your front door. And most clients feel a little exposed. We like to do textured glass. Some clients like color. Some clients like a little more of a timeless look with just clear glass. But usually we end up incorporating a good bit of texture just to address kind of the privacy aspect. That's what kind of differentiates just a regular pane of glass from stained glass or leaded glass. Depending on where each client is located, we can either get together at the studio, or most of my clients are actually remote. Our artisans work out of Denver, Colorado for the most part, and then we ship our pieces wherever they're needed. I usually ask my clients to peruse the internet, look on Google. We have a huge gallery on our website to kind of look what design direction catches your eye. Do you like clear glass? Do you want to do something with color? It's all personal preference. Once we have a couple design inspiration images, I use those and kind of jump off from there. And obviously I discuss what the purpose of this piece is going to be. Is it just to add beauty? Then maybe we go clear glass. Do we need privacy? We go texture. Do we want it to be a bunch of different rainbows? Then we use a lot of different colors. Each job is different and it's all kind of part of the creative process, but it's definitely a collaborative piece. I like to have some creative freedom. That's where I do my best work, but I also need to know what the end goal for your piece is. I feel like most of my clients, when we're thinking about an entryway, we're thinking about either front door stained glass or your front office stained glass, a lot of side lights. A lot of times we want a little bit of privacy. I feel like that's the thing I get asked for most. We have a lot of really fun kind of like 3D textured glass that makes prisms and rainbows and also provides a little bit of diffusion that you can tell if somebody's coming up to your door, but you can't necessarily make eye contact with your Amazon delivery driver. I think everybody is going to have a preference. Everybody's going to kind of gravitate towards different styles. And that's part of the reason that I ask most of my clients to find some inspiration images, because without those, it's kind of hard to know. That's kind of why we start with design inspiration, to see kind of what catches your eye, what you gravitate towards, and why. We'll kind of go into the background of what do you like about the squares versus the circles. Do you want to see organic shapes? Do you want this to be a little bit more geometric? We kind of talk through all of those little details because all of those tiny little pieces add up to what your end piece is going to look like. There's a ton of different styles of stained glass, leaded glass, whatever we want to call it. Even if you go with a super modern design, just the medium of stained leaded glass tends to be like super classic. It's vintage. The style itself is hundreds and hundreds of years old. I think it's a really cool way to bring in what so many generations before us used to have in such a modern way. I would say step one is usually discussing the size of the piece that you need. I can help you through measuring. If we're local to you, we can send a person out to measure where the glass is going to go. And then once we have the sizing down, I'll usually ask for design inspiration, and I can help you navigate how to source those images. Once we have the sizing and design inspiration, which that will give me a direction to head, we'll talk about budget. The way that we price our pieces is based off the overall size and then design complexity. So how long it's going to take our artisans to build this custom piece for you. It is a commissioned piece of art, essentially. It takes a lot of love and a lot of work. If we agree that the price is feasible and this is something you want to pursue, then we get to the fun part, which is designing. I'll take my sketch pad and I literally hand sketch to scale based on what design direction we've agreed upon. And then, yeah, it's pretty fun from there. Then I pick glass, and then our artisans start to create it, and then we either ship or install. When we're talking about colorful glass, that's what stained glass is. Sometimes we use stained glass and leaded glass interchangeably, but technically stained glass is stained glass. It's clear glass that's been made a color. When we incorporate colorful glass, it's obviously up to the client, but the things that I like to think about are the levels of opacity, how see-through the glass needs to be. Like, do you want to be able to see your grandma who's coming up to the door, or do you want it to be totally blocked out so that you have no visibility, just the light kind of coming through? That's one factor. Obviously, colors themselves, we've got every color you can imagine, and if we don't have it in our vintage collection, we can order it new with a sheet of glass from our trusted vendors. It's overwhelming the amount of glass there is in the world. I feel lucky to be able to incorporate a lot of that beauty into people's homes. And then one other thing to keep in mind is texture of glass. A lot of different colors of glass come in different textures. For example, I think a lot of people have heard of water glass. It tends to be a super soft, wavy texture to it versus something that's just a transparent, flat color versus something that has almost like dimples to it. It's like rough rolled or hammered glass. There's a ton of different textures within each color category, within each opacity. There's a lot of fun features that we can incorporate. Bevel cluster, which is just a cluster of bevels. That essentially is that 3D piece of glass that kind of throws rainbows, but from certain angles you can see through the glass. But if you're just walking up to it and not really trying to see through it, all you can see is kind of like a diffusion. I think that's a really cool way to be able to see if you need to while still keeping that privacy. Also, they're just so pretty. I think one thing that should always be considered, which I can obviously help you navigate before going into this process, is if commissioning a custom piece of art is within your budget. This medium takes a lot of work, a lot of training, and a lot of material to do this well, which is what Scottish does. It tends to be a more expensive medium than most people think, and which is okay. You know, money is definitely something that needs to be discussed. And I think having vulnerable conversations about what's comfortable for each client is part of what makes my job go well. I value those conversations. I think it's important to have those upfront just because I don't want to waste your time, and it's expensive. If you are interested in learning more about commissioning your own piece of stained glass or leaded glass, you can find us at scottishstainedglass.com, and then you can go through the contact portal there.